Hi, a quick demo for mask making face parts. So practice. So this is what we talked about in class with just grabbing out a couple handfuls of clay or a good sized handful of clay and making a little flat pancake of clay and then creating and practicing noses, mouths, and eyes all sort of separate. So we just covered noses and mouths and my video wouldn't load, so I'm doing it again here. So a pancake of clay, like I said, fairly thick. It can be really thick because you're gonna just end up recycling this after you've done a little bit of practice. A handful of clay. I'm gonna roll this into a bit of a sort of carrot, triangle, pyramid-ish shape. So a bit carrot-like, but and a fairly flat base. Doesn't have to be entirely flat, but it's kind of the bottom of our noses tends to be the flatter part of our face. Some people's more than others. And there's so many different shapes of noses. You do want to look around and see what kind of nose shape you want, whether you want something self-portrait-y or whether you want something that has a particular style. So that can be a part of this as well. So I'm going to score a little section on my slab of clay here, get a little bit of water, and I'm going to slip. And then I've got my little carrot shape here, and I'm sticking that right onto the surface. So that's where I'm starting, just sticking that on there. And then I am, excuse me, inhaled wrong. And then you're going to blend that clay right down onto the surface. So I'm just grabbing the edge and attaching it down. Smooth out some of my finger marks. And the same thing on the bottom portion. Now the stereotypical thing that I have heard many times for many years is if you want to make a particularly attractive shaped nose, the tip of the nose is a little bit angled up like this one is. Okay? Male or female, doesn't matter. Nothing too dramatic. You don't want them like you're looking right into their nostrils, hopefully. But it doesn't matter, actually. There's all kinds of noses, and some folks have noses where the tip of the nose is much higher, some much lower. I don't want you to look at my nose anymore to figure it out. But you can have the tip of this nose be longer, like it is now, or kind of pushed up a little bit. But I want mine to have an attractive nose, whatever that means. So I have it slightly tipped up like that. This is a fairly small and narrow nose. So again, these are choices that you can make. You can widen and soften this nose out so the tip of the nose isn't nearly as long and the body of the nose is a little bit wider. Completely your choice. Or again, if you wanted to give it something that's a little self-reflective, then you want to look in the mirror and kind of see what shape your nose is or family nose is. Have a younger brother or sister or older be your model. And so I've just kind of softened it out a little bit. Still there, still has a slightly upturned point. Okay, it's blended a little bit more. And then my favorite tool, period, but when making noses, is my wooden knife. I love the slightly curved end because I put it basically against the base of the nose and then I press in and wrap it around and create a nostril. Boom, he's got a nostril. Now there's also kind of an impression there, so I would go in and press back that clay because the crease that is typical around the side of a nose does have a little bit of an impression that it leaves. Okay, so I've got a nostril, no nostril, and then I'm going to make my nostril here. So again, putting that tool against the flat of the base of the nose and then wrapping it around, pressing it in gently and getting that there. And then I'm going to go in and just press that clay a little back a little bit. I did one side out in space without really seeing what I was doing, so I've got a slightly asymmetrical nose, which can happen too. You could have a crooked nose, a broken nose, all kinds of different ways to go after this. But I do have a nostril flare there with a slight crease, which will humanize your nose a little bit, which is what we're going for in this particular project. Okay? So now his nostrils on either side, but he doesn't actually have nostrils, so you have to get in there with your fingers, do a little awkward nose picking. Get your fingers in there a little bit. Again, nostrils have different shapes, tend to be not totally round, but a little bit oval. So now he's got nostrils on the inside and the outside. And you can really do a lot of manipulating of the clay right here at this point. And again, decide, ooh, I want those nostrils to be a little more wide, a little more rounded. And then don't forget that center of the nose, that bit of skin and cartilage that is there. And so do a little cleanup so you can actually see that nose. And there he is. Oops, a little asymmetrical. And then from the side. And the tip of the nose is kind of ended up bending out a little bit. I can push that back up, or I can extend that down. You can do all kinds of things to personalize that nose shape. So again, if I wanted to make something more narrow and pointy, I'm just getting back in there and manipulating that clay. Maybe I want to give them a much thinner skinned nose. So the nostrils are wide, but the skin itself and the nose itself is very narrow. So just by pressing on the clay and wiggling it around, you can change that nose quite a bit. I want you to play with your clay and sort of figure out how you want that nose shape to be. If you want something softer, if you want to build more clay onto the surface, maybe you started and you went, whoa, this is way more thin and pointy than I wanted it to be, then just do a little scoring and add some clay to that surface, and you can change things up all on the same little practice piece of clay that you've got going on right here. Okay, so that's the first part of our demo for nose and mouth. And then the mouth portion. So here's my nose. Again, just changed it up. So really have some fun with it. All right, so I'm gonna wipe that away, remove the nose, and then I'm gonna go for the mouth. You don't have to do that. I just didn't have enough clay in this particular piece to really add much. But if I had the bottom, I should have kept the bottom of that nose. Here, I'm gonna give my slab of clay just a little end of nose part for you, so you know the reference for the mouth. Okay? So here's gonna be, that's the bottom of the nose, and the mouth is gonna go right here. So if I'm thinking about where that line is a little bit. When you're on your mask, you'll have the eyes, and the eyes are actually generally where we start because it helps with lining up where corners and things are, because our irises typically line up with the corner of the side of your mouth. So it will help you to have a more proportionate face. Again, human faces come in all kinds of shapes and sizes, so you might look in the mirror and go, hey, wait a minute, the sides of my mouth go past the corners of my eyes. Then you have a slightly wider mouth, or if they're more narrow, we all come in different shapes and sizes. It's all good. But if you want something that's natural looking, again, looking in the mirror or finding some images of faces, something that is interesting or attractive to you, you can go that way. So the way that I like to do mouths is to start with 5 little balls of clay, all pretty even in size. And I don't spend a whole lot of time rolling them up. I'm not making them absolutely perfect because I want the clay to stay soft, because I'm actually gonna blend them all together. So if I sat here for 20 minutes and rolled a perfect ball of clay, this thing would be a little rock and it would be very hard to soften and to put into a mouth shape. Now with mouths, so these little 5 balls of clay are gonna end up being the formation of the lips. I've done this where there have been 2 balls of clay on top and 3 on the bottom. I've done it where there's 3 on top and 2 on the bottom. It really depends on where you want the fullness of the lips. Again, don't look at mine. Do what you want to do. But if you want a more full lower lip, then put those 3 balls of clay on the bottom. If you want a more full upper lip, then I would say put the 3 balls of clay on the top. I think I'm going to switch it around this time and do 3 across the top and 2 across the bottom underneath that nose. Okay? I'm going to start this out upside down, see how far I get. And score. Again, because you're attaching clay, you don't want this to fall apart while you're working on it. Plus, you want to have good habits about how you're going to put your mask together. So I've got the 4 balls of clay. I'm going to sort of center it underneath the center of the nose so my mouth isn't way off to the side. Press those in. And now I'm going to do some blending in. So an important thing and a mistake that students often make is they think of a mouth like this. Whoops. Something like this. Upside down. That's a mouth, right? When you think of a drawn, like a symbol of a mouth. Something along that line. The problem is that our lip isn't full all the way to the corners. And we don't have an outline on the flatter part of our face or against our, I don't know how to say that, the contour of our skin. So this needs to be built out and that needs to be blended in. So when I have this, I want this clay to blend, the little balls of clay to sort of blend with each other, but also blend into the face. So this part is the #1 mistake I see beginners do, is they want this to be the whole mouth right here. And they do an outline of that. And it isn't. Your mouth extends and blends into your cheeks or the skin of the side of your face, and below and above. It doesn't just stick on your face like a bunch of wax lips. It blends in more. Again, everybody's a little different, where the fullness of the lips are, how full lips are, how thin lips are, all of those things. And as we age, that changes. That's why I don't want you to look at me. So in any case, I've blended those down. So now I just have this mound. But I really want you to be aware of this, the blending from the center where the fullest part of your lips are out into the cheeks. That's very important, okay? And then from here, again, normally you'd have your eyes of your mask already there, so you'd know how wide you want this mouth to be. I'm gonna decide that my mouth is gonna kind of go here and here. So I've got my edges. And then what I'm gonna do is take my wooden knife, go right to where the center of the mouth is, or the separation between the upper and lower lip. I poke my knife right into that corner, and then I'm gonna rock it down, create that division of the upper and lower lip, and then I rock the tool slightly up. So that's the first side. You can already see he's got a bit of a mouth starting. And then same thing here, poke in, rock across, and slightly up. And you can do slightly down. I like to push it a little bit more up. And you can see that mouth is already starting to show. It's really fast. The thing that happens when you use the wooden knife and you do rock this and create that upper lip and lower lip is the thing that makes it start to work is this line. Because this is the line that really on your lips shows the difference in the skin tone from your interior skin color to your exterior skin color. So I bring that line down from where the tool has begun. And again, I'm making just a generic mouth here. I don't have any reference that I'm looking at. So I just know that that skin of the mouth, as it comes from your interior skin to your exterior skin, the line is out here in space. It's not down here underneath the bottom of the lip. Okay, so there is no line there. There's a transition of the shape or the form of your lip and your face, but where we get a bit of a visual line is up here in space. So the line is here on this edge. And then the same thing for the upper lip. I just use my finger generally, because I do as much as I can with my hands. And I just soften that line up a little bit. I'm gonna give it a little bit of that little crease that we get typically in the center of our upper lip. And you can kind of fill that out a little bit if you want. And then again, it's really just sort of manipulating the clay to get the shape of lip that you want in particular. So I get my mouth. And again, profile is really important to look at. Right now those lips are kind of sticking out because he's got a bit of a smile and almost like the mouth is opening a bit. Sometimes in these, especially on practice pieces, I love to cut through those lips, just make a slice, and then I'm going to get in there and soften so the slice goes away and it looks more like that skin just moving to the inside of the mouth. Okay, so just smooth it a bit, and then I can continue to open from the back, open that mouth up, and you can start getting it to say something, do something like those sheets we have. The actress from Bewitched, who I loved growing up, best show. So it's got all kinds of different shapes that her mouth is holding. And so when you're just using your little piece here, it's really fun to be able to kind of go, oh, wait a minute, I want to see if I can make it look like that particular shape, and change the opening of the mouth, the creases on the side of the mouth, all of these things to get more natural, gestural kind of expressions in the face. Or you can then close these right back up again, so the mouth is closed. And you can decide if that upper lip is softer, if that lower lip is kind of rolled down more, and stylize things a bit more, okay? But that's how you want to start with mouth, is those balls of clay, blend them together, smooth them into the sides, and blend them a bit down and a bit above. There's also that little kind of ridge in our skin between the upper lip and the nose. And you can play around with all of that. Have some fun with it. If you're struggling, don't worry. We will come back and talk about it again, okay?